very beginning, Aaron, to only be aiming at military targets. But we've seen bridges, schools, and residential neighborhoods hit by strikes. So how much danger are Ukrainian civilians in right now?
The Russians officially, Diane, say they are only aiming at strategic military-type targets, and that's largely been true, but these missiles are not always accurate, and we saw an incredible piece of video of an errant missile striking a high-rise residential building near one of the main airports in Kyiv. We're not sure whether that was an intended target or whether it was meant for the airport, but a chunk of the building had been taken out. And while civilians may not be, if you take the Russians at their word, the intended targets, nearly 200 or so have died, including several children, according to the Ukrainian Health Ministry, and more than 1,000 have been wounded. So this has come at exceptional cost in these early days of battle.
So, Aaron, there in Lviv, west of Kyiv, what are you looking out for in the next few hours and overnight?
You know, there is a curfew in this city. It's quiet here. We've seen lines outside banks and shops as people who are staying stock up on essentials. This is one of the places which has been relatively safe ground, where people from other parts of Ukraine have come, taken in by families as people have room. It's also a stop along the way to the Polish border as this kind of mass migration of displaced Ukrainians is underway. At least 50,000 have crossed international borders so far, and the estimate is more than 100,000 are on the move, fleeing the fighting.
All right, Aaron Katersky for us in Lviv, Ukraine. Aaron, stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
And as hundreds of thousands of people rush to flee Ukraine, some are waiting for days at the border in sub-freezing temperatures, desperate to get to safety. For more on the humanitarian crisis this is creating, let's bring in Chris Mesler, senior spokesperson for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Chris, thank you for joining us. I know it's a very busy time. We've seen these harrowing images coming in from Kyiv of explosions overnight. I know you're on the Polish side of the Ukrainian border. Talk to us about what you're seeing there on the other side of the border.
What we're seeing are long lines of cars, of people waiting here to come to Poland, to come to safety. So some of the people told us that they have waited for 24 hours, for 30 hours in their car to come to Poland. And as you mentioned, the temperatures are in the night in the 20s, so it's really cold here. But the mood of the people is not that bad. Some of them are, of course, they're scared. They are also tired, but they're also relieved that because they hope that they are now in safety here in Poland.
And we're looking at an image right now. Some of these refugees, I mean, a lot of young children in that crowd of, again, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians on the move. It could very well be the largest mass migration of people in Europe since World War II. So if this conflict lasts for weeks, what's your number one concern?
Well, the number one concern is indeed that it lasts for weeks or even longer. So more than 100,000 people from Ukraine have left their country now, and they are here in Poland, in Romania, in Moldavia, and Slovakia. It's still very cold, so the first thing that people need are kind of blankets, warm clothes, and of course also food and water. But the people are staying, most of them are staying close to the border because they're telling us they hope they can go back as soon as possible. They want to go home, finally.
Now, the UN says north of $1 billion is needed to address this humanitarian crisis. What is the UN doing right now to try to assist?
Well, our budget is, we are totally underfunded here. We have only 9% of the money we need. What we're doing now is that we have about 120 staff members in the Ukraine, and we are prepared. We are there. We have our stockpiles of tents, of blankets, of jerry cans, of hygiene products, and we are ready to give them to the people in need. But I also need to underline the solidarity of the people here in the neighboring countries, like here in Poland, where cars are dropping water, sleeping bags, toys, and it's just amazing if you see the solidarity of thousands of people here for their Ukrainian neighbors.
So, Chris, for people watching at home, what can they do to help? What can we do to help? And what else needs to be done to get these people what they need?
Well, from America, it's not easy. You can't just take your car and drop probably a sleeping bag here. But of course, there are international organizations like UNHCR, but not only UNHCR. And we are happy for every support because the people are here. They are arriving probably with something in their car. Sometimes they're arriving here by foot and they have barely nothing. And that's why every kind of support, especially donations for example, UNHCR, is very welcome.
All right, Chris, we appreciate your time today. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And ABC News Live will continue with coverage of the Ukraine-Russia crisis in just a moment. Stay with us.
With so much at stake, so much on the line. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
Run, urgent delivery, run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
Seems to change just about every day.
what is it that you really want to know, need to know,
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
It was a scary time.
In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yeah.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Я не хочу, чтобы больше повторились военные действия, потому что очень сильно страшно. Не знаешь, куда упадет снаряд, что будет дальше делаться. Должен спросить у самого себя, как ты с этим будешь бороться.
Some footage from UNICEF trying to document the experience of the Ukrainian people right now. Meanwhile, the United States is urging Ukraine's President Zelensky to evacuate the country, but the response so far is no. As Russian forces encircle and approach the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, Zelensky was quoted by a senior American intelligence officer saying he needs anti-tank ammo, not a ride. And there he is on the streets of the capital city. ABC News' Ike Ejiochi is joining us now with more on that. Ike, what do you make of this response from the Ukrainian president, and how else is President Biden trying to help today?
Well, you're seeing the Ukrainian President Zelensky right now really tell the world that they are defending their sovereignty, they're defending their independence, and they need help doing so. You're seeing Russia attack Ukraine from 3 sides of the country. And at the same time, you're seeing the world responding. Now, right now, President Biden, he's spending his weekend in Wilmington, Delaware. He planned to do so in order to attend a memorial service for a family member. Nevertheless, he's still locked in on this crisis. He's having a secure call with Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as the rest of his national security team amid this ongoing crisis. Now, the White House, they're doing 2 things at once at the moment. On one hand, they're sanctioning Russia and the Kremlin for their involvement in this unprovoked attack against Ukraine. And on the other hand, they're providing support for Ukraine in the terms of hundreds of millions of dollars of aid in hope that the country can properly defend itself, Diane.
Now, Biden has authorized $350 million in additional security assistance for Ukraine. So what does that aid look like, and what does it include?
Well, that $350 million is an ongoing level of support that we've seen not only from the Biden administration, but also from the EU and the rest of its allies. Now, this particular tranche of money, the $350 million, it's going to be for anti-armor, small arms, and other various munitions. And it'll also be for body armor that'll go directly to the Ukrainian military defenders on the front line. But there is an issue with this aid right now. The airspace in that contested area right now in Ukraine and Russia, it's right now it is limited. It is prohibited. You can't fly anything in that area, which makes it difficult to deliver this aid to the Ukraine defenses at the moment. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby is talking about alternative ways in which they can deliver this aid to Ukrainian military defenses. But at the moment right now, you're seeing the United States offer over $1 billion of financial support to Ukraine over the past year, as well as a similar level of support from the EU and the rest of its allies. Diane?
All right. Ike Ejiochi for us. Thanks, Ike. And again, thanks to you all for streaming with us. We'll be back in just a moment with the latest on the Russia-Ukraine crisis.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
Run, urgent delivery, run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know.
Seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know,
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it? Feel smarter.
feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a 3rd hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
It was a scary time.
In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. Had to have a name for it. Serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yeah.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
We move up to the vehicle. He detonates a bomb.
The heroes who stopped the killer, who held the city of Austin hostage for 19 days.
It's a tripwire.
All hands on deck.
The clues, the Home Depot video, that truck, and the agent who connected the dots.
It was exactly the vehicle that we were looking for.
Inside the investigation,
Advance make contact.
the takedown of the bomber. Now streaming on Hulu.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States. It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself, in jeopardy for us.
Welcome back. back to ABC News Live. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is gearing up for a confirmation battle after President Biden made her the first black woman ever nominated to the nation's highest court. If confirmed, she'll replace Justice Stephen Breyer. Rachel Scott has the latest.
Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson walking into history, becoming the first black woman nominated to the Supreme Court. The announcement 2 years to the day that President Biden promised to appoint a black woman to the bench.
For too long, our government, our courts, haven't looked like America. And I believe it's time that we have a court that reflects the full talents and greatness of our nation.
And with the nation's first black vice president looking on, Judge Jackson said she was humbled by the extraordinary honor.
And I do know that one can only come this far by faith. Among my many blessings, and indeed the very first, is the fact that I was born in this great country.
The 51-year-old has almost a decade of experience on the federal bench, confirmed to the U.S. Court of Appeals in D.C. The daughter of school teachers grew up in Miami, Florida. Jackson said it was her father who started her on the path of public service.
I watched him study, and he became my first professional role model.
And she detailed how the legal system has hit close to home.
You may have read that I have one uncle who got caught up in the drug trade and received a life sentence. That is true. But law enforcement also runs in my family. In addition to my brother, I had two uncles who served decades as police officers, one of whom became the police chief in my hometown of Miami, Florida.
The mother of two, paying tribute to those who came before her, including Constance Baker Motley, the first black female federal judge.
Today, I proudly stand on Judge Motley's shoulders, sharing not only her birthday, but also her steadfast and courageous commitment to equal justice under law.
Jackson is a former federal public defender, a job no justice has ever had. Black women are dramatically underrepresented on the federal bench, and for the first time in 233 years, one will be nominated to the highest court.
The United States of America is the greatest beacon of hope and democracy the world has ever known.
Diane, this now sets off a fierce confirmation battle. I'm told that Judge Jackson will be on Capitol Hill next week to meet with senators. She was confirmed to the D.C. Circuit with the support of 3 Republicans, but already one of those senators, Lindsey Graham, is attacking her record. The White House is hoping for bipartisan support, but they are not counting on it. Diane?
All right, Rachel Scott, thanks for that. And I'm Diane Macedo. Thank you for joining us. And do stay with us. ABC News Live will continue with news, context, and analysis, and continuing updates throughout the day on the critical situation in Ukraine. Stay with us.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
It's an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new Hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
National parks are incredibly safe places, but crime will happen.
My wife is cold and she's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident. There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, let's move back. We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
Run, urgent delivery, run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
ABC News, America's #1 news source.
Good morning, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. We are following the latest on the Russian invasion of Ukraine this morning. Right now, the capital of Kyiv is under attack. But Ukraine is not going down without a fight. President Zelensky says the country is, quote, successfully repelling Vladimir Putin's attacks and that Kyiv and its outskirts are under the control of the Ukrainian military. We have team coverage this morning. ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell starts us off from Kyiv.
This morning, Russian troops moving deeper into the Ukrainian capital, the city facing a potential siege. Despite claims civilians aren't being targeted, in this social media post, you can see an apartment block in the city struck this morning. It's unclear by whom. Incredibly, no one was killed. Tatiana and her family were inside the building. She says, my kid's room is now just a hole. If she'd been in there, she wouldn't have survived. Overnight, battles raging in parts of the city, but Ukrainian troops mounting a solid defense so far. Ukrainian President Zelensky this morning outside in central Kyiv, vowing, we will defend our country because our arms are our truth. Our truth is that it's our land, and we will defend all of this. A senior Pentagon official telling ABC News the first 2 days have not gone as well as the Russians expected, but it's believed they are resupplied and poised to execute a coordinated assault on Kyiv at any time. Zelensky warning last night the coming hours would be tough, saying we cannot lose Kyiv. The military relaxing restrictions on who can join the army. Defense forces seen patrolling in civilian clothes, wearing yellow armbands instead of uniforms. 18,000 weapons have been handed out to volunteers to help in the fight. Alexei Goncharenko is a prominent lawmaker here, but today he's one more armed citizen.
I don't want to fight. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a professional military man.
but I am not ready to capitulate. That's the difference.
Videos posted online show an armoured vehicle crushing a car on the edge of the capital. Miraculously, the stunned driver escaping alive. Northwest of Kyiv, this bridge reportedly destroyed to slow Russia's advance from the north. Russian soldiers now advancing on the roads. New satellite images showing Russian military deployments in southern Belarus, including ground transport helicopters just 20 miles from the border with Ukraine. And near the Black Sea coast, as thousands of troops arrived in a so-called amphibious assault, naval infantry coming ashore in the town of Melitopol. Gunshots ringing out on this train platform as hundreds attempt to board, desperate to escape Kyiv. And in Dnipro in the east, Lika Kuznetsova and her family are a day's drive from the nearest border. Her husband expects to be drafted, so she could be forced to leave him behind when the time comes.
Today was the first time that my husband and I actually looked at a map, and we were trying to figure out the best way for me and my child to travel if I had to flee.
Diana, senior US officials warning that the Russians could attempt a mass move into Kyiv today, saying it will be brutal. For now, Ukrainian defences are holding, but the atmosphere in the city is electric. The silence is only really broken by the sounds of battle. And residents here are hunkering down and bracing for an even more violent onslaught ahead. Diane? All right, Ian Panel for us in Kyiv. Stay safe, Ian. And for more on this, let's bring in General Robert Abrams, who advised Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel during the last invasion in Ukraine. General, thanks for being here. You heard the Ukrainian president saying that his forces are successfully repelling Russian attacks. What do you make of that, and what are you expecting as they start to move in on Kyiv?
Diane, I think the Ukrainian Defense Forces have actually done a remarkable job. This is very complex operation that the Russians are trying to undertake, and the Ukrainian Defense Forces are literally fighting in all directions. And their defense thus far of Kyiv, I think, it's inspiring. And the Ukrainian people have risen to the challenge. They've responded to the call, and they are defiant, resolute, resilient in their defense of their country and their capital. So I actually think the Ukrainian Defense Forces are doing a remarkable job considering what they're up against.
Now, we've also heard even before last night that the Russians have encountered more resistance than they were expecting. Why do you think that is?
In one word, hubris. They underestimated the Ukrainian Defense Forces and underestimated the Ukrainian people. They overestimated their own capabilities. They thought they were a lot better than they actually are. And what they're attempting to do is very complex military operations, and they are not up to the challenge. So I think this has been a bit of a surprise to not only President Putin, who probably expected the Ukrainian Defense Forces and the military to just melt away at the sight of the first Russian force, and that has not happened, and this has caused some significant challenges, I think, to the Russian planned timeline for what they want to accomplish.
Now, President Zelensky told the world that he's target number one, and he even told European leaders last night that this may be the last time you see me alive. And yet, he has remained in Kyiv. He's been posting video updates. How big of a risk is he taking, and how important do you think it is for him to be there right now?
Well, it's hard for me to judge how much risk he's actually taking because I'm unaware of exactly where he is and what his protective service detail looks like and so forth. But remaining in Kyiv, there is risk to that. But like most things, when leaders make risk decisions about where to position themselves, in this case, the reward is significant. And he is exactly where he needs to be. He is inspiring not only his military, he is inspiring his people. He is sending a message to the international community of their resoluteness, their resilience, and their refusal to give in to Russians' demands.
General Abrams, we appreciate your time today. We appreciate your guidance as well. We will try to get the general back on for more analysis. But as he mentioned, Russian troops are now approaching the Ukrainian capital, and as that happens, a night of street fighting and explosions lit up the sky, sending Kyiv residents running, looking for shelter. Now, President Zelensky sent out a message overnight to his people and to the world saying, we are here and we will win. ABC News senior investigative reporter Aaron Katursky is live in Lviv to the west of the capital city with more on what's happening on the ground there. Aaron, after a night of heavy fighting across the country, we saw on the map there